Dr. Parmjit Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on the Accident Compensation, Financial Responsibility and Transparency Amendment Bill's first reading. Mr. Speaker, the aim of this bill is to amend the Accident Compensation Act, the ACC Act, to reform the mechanism of setting levies and also to ensure that we don't, the residual levies are not over-collected. ACC is to support injured people to get back into work, get back into their routine life as soon as possible. ACC also has a role to stop injuries happening in the first place. ACC is accountable to all New Zealanders. Everyone contributes to ACC and everyone wants value. Until 1999, ACC used to operate as a pay-as-you-go basis. That was to collect levies to cover the cost of claims coming in that particular year. But then it changed to fully funded operating model. That means that levies are collected to cover the cost of full lifetime claims coming from injuries happening in that particular year. And Mr. Speaker, sometimes people have to rely on ACC for a very long time in their life. It could be 10 years, 15, 20, 30, or even more. So significant reserves of funding are required to cover those claims. And so the money collected is invested and the interest is also used to pay for cost of levies. And this fully funded model of operating is seen more fair for levy payers because future levy payers don't have to pay for injuries that happened in the past. And so that this bill inserts certain principles for setting ACC levies for work, earners, and motor vehicle accounts, the levied accounts. Work account is the one which cover claims for all work-related injuries. And as a result of the legislative change in the Accident Compensation Act in 2010, work account was merged with residual claim account. Earner account is for levies paid by people, those who are in paid workforce, and non-earners account is funded by government using money collected from general taxation. And motor vehicle account is funded by levy that is included in petrol price and also motor vehicle licensing fees. So this bill provides provision for setting levies so that levies derived from each account is able to meet the lifetime cost of claims in relation to injuries that occur in that particular year. And if an account is accumulating surplus or if an account is in deficit to meet the cost of claims, then that needs to be corrected by setting levies appropriately in subsequent years. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we want to make sure that changes to levies are not drastic. We want to avoid big changes to levies. The ACC scheme is critical to us because it provides 24/7 coverage to motor vehicle work-related and non-work-related injuries. And since national government got in 2008, the ACC scheme is doing much better than before, but there is more that needs to be done. And also at the same time, we want to make sure that the levies are as low as possible. And it is important to have consistency and stability for levy payers because that helps to build that public confidence in the ACC scheme. And our government, through the Working Safer package of workplace health and safety reforms, is committed to reducing workplace injuries, especially serious and fatal injuries, by 25% by 2020. And we also have an interim target of reducing claims which are for people staying away from work for more than a week by 10%. And Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned that the ACC scheme is doing much better under this national government since 2008. It's because specifically from 2004 to 2008, there was that period of significant deterioration of the scheme, especially the financial performance and outcomes. And that translated into outstanding claims liability. And this was because there was no transparency and also levy rates did not increase to keep pace with claims expenses. And so that led to that situation in 2008 when this national government got in. What we got was a big hole in the ACC account, a big hole of $4.8 billion. And Mr. Speaker, there are various reasons for that big hole in the ACC account, but I believe the main reason was the poor management of the previous Labour government. Yes, it was the poor management of the previous Labour government. So that's why in 2008, what we inherited was this big hole in the ACC account of $4.8 billion, and also the scheme that was heading in the wrong direction, because there was this significant funding shortfall and rising claims costs. So this government and ACC have been working hard from last 6+ years to improve the scheme's finances and also to deliver better outcomes for people, those who need the ACC scheme. So our focus is to keep improving our ACC scheme so people can get into work as soon as possible, people can get back into their routine life as soon as possible, and also returning claims rates and costs to sustainable levels. The work, earners and motor vehicles accounts, the levied accounts, are now at or approaching full funding. And also, Mr. Speaker, this national government has put back $1.5 billion back in New Zealanders' pockets since 2012. This is through levy reductions, which we have heard from my colleagues from this side. And this government is working hard to achieve that appropriate balance between keeping that financial performance of the scheme and also delivering better outcomes for New Zealanders. We want to do more for injured people so that they get appropriate help, but at the same time, we want the scheme to be transparent. We want to make sure that there is visibility for levy payers, because we all have high expectations from the ACC scheme. We want the ACC scheme to provide meaningful injury prevention. We want ACC scheme to provide better and faster dispute resolution. We want ACC scheme to provide consistent service, and we want to make sure that complex issues are also resolved as soon as possible. And at the same time, we want the ACC scheme to be financially responsible. We want ACC scheme to provide levy reductions which are sustainable, and also we want the scheme to be transparent. So continued improvement is important to maintain levy stability and avoid unpredictability. While the scheme's performance, overall performance, including financial performance, is going really well under this national government, but there could be some short-term unpredictabilities, for example, for reasons like sudden population growth. So, Mr. Speaker, there is no overarching legislative framework that establishes the objectives to be met or principles to guide the process of levy settings. So that's why this bill is required, because it will give us that a sound and responsible approach to set levies. The application of the principles in the bill will see that levies are stable and they are reflecting underlying costs in the absence of economic shocks or large swings in ACC's claims performance. And most importantly, transparency is needed, that is for the government and also for people, those who are paying levies, and it will also help us calculate downstream consequences of funding decisions. And so this is about improving accountability of the scheme. As I said, Mr. Speaker, that ACC scheme is accountable to all New Zealanders. So we want to make this scheme more accountable. This bill will help us achieve a more sustainable and transparent ACC scheme. And this is very important for New Zealanders. So I support the bill and I commend the bill to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Accident Compensation, Financial Responsibility and Transparency Amendment Bill, first reading.
The question now is that the Accident Compensation, Financial Responsibility and Transparency Amendment Bill be considered by the Transport and Industrial Relations Committee. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The Honourable Paseta Sam Lotu-Iiga.
I move that the Accident Compensation, Financial Responsibility and Transparency Amendment Bill be reported to the House by 3rd of November 2015.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Electronic Monitoring of Offenders Legislation Bill, first reading.